Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll go ahead and get started. We're about 2 minutes after 10 a.m. Central Time. Want to appreciate everyone for taking time to join our webinar on how to prepare for your visa interview. So I'm going to go ahead and let my colleagues introduce themselves. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing here.
Hey everyone, my name is David Bernay. I'm the Director of International Admission at St. Edward's.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fernanda Garcia, and I'm the Assistant Director of International Admission.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm a little bit paranoid with the Zoom settings. My name is Rocio Zuniga, and I am the International Student Experience Coordinator. So I work with Jacob and International Student Services.
Great. Thanks, everyone. So just some housekeeping up top. If you don't mind just keeping yourself muted while we go through the presentation, you are welcome to type any questions that you have in the chat, and we can answer those at the end. And then, of course, at the end of the presentation, we'll have time for questions as well. So you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask your questions live. And just to let everyone know, I will be recording this presentation, and in the next couple of days, I'll send out a link to this recording so you can revisit this, also slides from what we're presenting today. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so for the agenda today, we're going to talk about steps to apply for your F1 or your J1 visa. F1 is for our full degree-seeking students, and J1 is for our exchange students. The visa interview process, what happens after your visa interview, some common challenges and solutions, and then we're going to provide some great resources to you, and then also we'll have time for questions. Okay, so I'd like to get started with some recent information that changed last year. So the U.S. State Department announced in June of last year that they were going to begin some extreme vetting for visa applicants, which basically means that they're going to be reviewing your social media screenings, screening your social media as part of an extreme vetting measure for visa applicants. With this new guidance, visa officials will conduct a comprehensive and thorough vetting, including all online presences of all students and exchange visitor applicants in the F and J non-immigrant categories. So basically the way this works is that once you are attending your visa interview, you may be asked to turn your social media handles to public. And then also they may issue what's called an 221G, which is a refusal for administrative processing. And this is not a flat out denial for your visa application. This just means they need additional time to review your application and possibly to review those social media handles that you shared with them. So when they're reviewing that, they're looking at content. So basically looking at posts like comments or even things authorized by the applicant that may be analyzed. They're using some AI tools possibly. So they're using algorithms that may flag keywords, reposted material, or digital associations that you have online. Also, there might be using some ideological filters. The officers could be scrutinized political or religious views under the guise of national security. And of course, there's always academic vetting. So applicants' field of study or professors' affiliations may be examined for sensitive topics. So my recommendation for you is just make sure that your social media handles are public and that they are very general and you don't have some posts that could flag your visa applicant for further review. So moving on to the steps to apply for your F1 or J1 visa. Hopefully you already have your I-20 or your DS 2019 from ISS. If not, we can certainly help you to get that issued as soon as possible. Just be sure to reach out to us with any questions you have about that process. But once you have that I-20 or that DS 2019, your first step is going to be paying the I-901 CVIS fee. And you'll see the link here on the screen. Basically, you would pay $350 if you're an F1 student, and then $220 if you're a J1 exchange student. And this goes to the Student Exchange Visitor Program, or commonly referred to as SEVP. And in order to pay this, you need your CVIS ID number. And your CVIS ID number will be found on that I-20 or the DS 2019 that we issued for you. And it generally starts with the letter N. Of course, reach out to us if you have any issues finding that. And then also you need to know the SEVIS school code and program number for St. Edward's. So I have that information listed here. You can also find that on the I-20 itself or the DS 2019. And of course, you can also find the information in our website. And then once you've paid this fee online, it is highly, highly recommended that you print this receipt showing that you did pay this fee because you will need to show this when you actually attend your visa interview. Okay, and then so after you've paid that SEVIS fee, you're going to move on to completing your DS-160 or your visa application. So basically, you're going to go to this website that you see on the screen, the state.gov website. And this is where you are going to be completing the DS-160 and scheduling your required visa interview appointment. So some important notice to our visa applicants. After you've completed this DS-160, you must take the following steps. So when you get to the completion page, you will have a barcode that appears. So make sure that you print and you keep this barcode. You'll want to make sure that you take this with you to the visa interview, just like the SEVIS fee receipt. You must schedule a visa interview appointment. The U.S. Embassy or consulate does not schedule the appointment for you. So you can visit the U.S. or consulate website that you see linked here to find the nearest U.S. Embassy or consulate to your location, and then use that information to schedule your appointment with them. And then you may be asked to pay the visa application processing fee. You can review country-specific information on the U.S. Embassy or consulate website. And again, when I send these slides out in the next couple of days, you'll have links to all of these resources that we're discussing. Okay, so when you're completing that DS-160, it's going to ask for specific information from you and some documents. You'll want to create a new application. You'll need to fill in your security questions so you can log back in case you lose your password or something like that. You'll want to fill in all your personal information. Then they're going to ask you to fill in your passport details. So be sure to have your passport readily available. And then, of course, family information. So they're going to ask about immediate family information. So you should be able to have that information available to you as well. And then, of course, your educational details. So they're going to ask about your history and then also your plans to attend St. Edward's. Answering any additional security questions that they have for you. And then depending if you're applying for the F1 or the J1 visa, it's going to ask specific questions related to that visa category. And then once you get to the end of the DS-160 application, it's going to ask you to review your answers. If everything looks good, you'll be able to submit it and sign it. The documents that they're going to want from you once you are submitting this DS-160 is going to be your passport, recent photographs, so they can use that to create your visa. And then, of course, your Form I-20 for F1 students or your Form DS-2019 for J1 students. So now that you've paid that DS-160, your next step is scheduling that visa interview. So to do that, you can visit the NIV appointment system website, again, linked below. Be sure to have that DS-160 online visa applicant form confirmation number handy. If your country is not listed, you can visit the usembassy.gov website to find the nearest embassy or consulate in your country so you can schedule the appointment there. And you do need to pay the DS-160 fee, which is currently $185. You'll follow the instructions on the local U.S. Embassy consulate website. If prepaying that fee, be sure to take your receipt or confirmation to your visa appointment. And this is a screenshot that you see on the screen here of what that scheduling system looks like. Now, when you are scheduling your appointment, if you come across any issues that, maybe you're not able to find an appointment available, what we recommend is scheduling the earliest possible appointment that you find available, and then also submitting an emergency request, if possible, for an expedited appointment. So this expedited appointments, they're not always guaranteed, but there is an option for F and J students to request an expedited appointment. So let's say you're looking at visa appointment availability, and they don't have anything available until, say, mid-August, late August, something like September. Then yes, you would be eligible to do the expedited appointment request process because you need to arrive in the U.S. before that to attend the fall 2026 semester. So each consular office does have their own process and procedure for requesting an expedited appointment. Sometimes it can be done online. Sometimes you'll need to contact the consulate directly. But what we usually recommend is visiting the U.S. Department of State website to learn about the visa wait times in your country, which again, you'll see that website linked here on the screen. This will give you better information about how long in advance you'll need to schedule that visa appointment so you have time to apply. You can go through that administrative processing and then also have time for the visa stamp to be placed in your passport and returned to you. So, some documents that you'll want to collect before your visa interview. Of course, you need your visa immigration documents. So that would be your passport. It would be that DS-160 confirmation page after you've paid the DS-160 and completed that form. It'll be the visa appointment confirmation. So once you've scheduled that appointment, go ahead and print out that confirmation. It'll be your printed and signed Form I-20 and DS-2019. So when you receive that from ISS, you'll already have a signature from our office. You'll need to print that out and you'll need to hand sign the student section. You'll also want to take that SEVIS I-901 SEVIS fee receipt that you paid online, and then the passport-sized photos that I mentioned that they will use to create your visa. And in addition to that, you'll want to take your university documents and proof of financial support. So you'll want to take your admission letter to St. Edward's and then also the proof of financial support. So just like you showed to ISS to receive your I-20 or your DS 2019, we recommend taking our certificate of finance form with you, your bank letters or bank statements that you provided to our office, and of course, any scholarship award letters that you received from the university. In addition, you also want to have some personal documents with you, so some documentation to prove ties to your home country. So what you need to do is to convince the visa officer that your intention is to come to the U.S., complete your degree or complete your exchange semester, but ultimately return to your home country. And the way that you can prove that is having some documentation with you showing that either yourself or your family owns their home, or they own a business, or they own land, or maybe you can provide proof that there are job opportunities available to you in your country after you obtain the degree that you are receiving here at St. Edward's. We also recommend that you carry transcripts and standardized test scores with you, showing, your previous educational history. And then also if you already happen to be registered for classes, by the time that you're attending your visa appointment, you can certainly take a printout of your class schedule as well. And then, of course, if you have ever applied for any type of U.S. visa in the past, you'll want to take documentation to verify that as well. Okay, so now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, David, who's going to talk about a successful U.S. visa interview.
Thanks so much, Jacob. And we're assuming that a lot of you are in this stage of the process right now. You've likely already received your I-20, you've applied for your visa, and many of you are waiting to attend your visa appointment. So we wanted to go over some of the common questions that you might get from your consular officer that you meet, because preparation is key to a successful outcome. So as Jacob mentioned, one of the most important things is understanding the purpose of the interview, which is demonstrating your intent to study in the US and return home. For those of you who are our J1 students, this is pretty easy because you're only going to be at St. Ed's for one semester, but the rest of you are degree-seeking students who are going to come to St. Edward's for multiple years, and maybe have a job experience after you graduate, but you will be intending to return home, and you want to demonstrate that to the consular officer that you connect with. Jacob went over your DS-160 application previously. Because you are the person that filled this out, you should be very familiar with all the responses that you submitted. So make sure that you just know all the information that you submitted in that application. We're going to talk about some common interview questions over the next few slides. But it's important to maintain a positive attitude when you're there at the embassy, that you are punctual and on time, that you dress appropriately in formal dress, and that and that you're confident sort of about your answers. And that's why we're going to go over some of these questions in a little bit. And only respond to the questions that you're asked. So don't offer additional information if you're not asked. Okay, let's go to the next slide. We can talk about some of these questions. Okay. Before we get to those questions, a couple things to note. Students are often surprised when they learn that these visa interviews can only be sometimes around 2 to 3 minutes long. So often you'll go and you'll meet a consular officer who will ask you a few questions. The categories are listed below. The most commonly asked are about your study plans, your university choice, your academic capabilities, financial status, and post-graduation plans. So you want to make sure that we're prepared to answer in all these areas if asked. And as I mentioned before, you want to show up on time and be formally dressed. Okay. So one of the most popular questions that you get is, why do you want to study in the US? And you will want to have an answer that's persuasive here. So a lot of times students will point to the fact that they're studying in the US because US universities are highly ranked. There are multiple opportunities to study different subjects in the US that maybe aren't represented in your home country. Perhaps there's some, job expertise through internships that you want to get and skills that you want to gain. But the sort of important part of this is, again, to signal to the consular officer that you are coming to the US, to St. Edward's for your education, but that you're going to take all of the skills and education and learning that you receive and bring it back to your home country. So again, that's a really kind of key point for messaging. But be sure to be prepared to understand or to explain to the officer why you chose St. Edward's. Why, of all the 4,000 different universities in the US or all the universities around the world, including those in your home country, did you decide to study at St. Ed's? Maybe it's because we have a major that is, specifically for you, that's pretty rare to study. Maybe it's because you are going to be playing for one of our sports teams. Maybe you have a connection to the state of Texas. So all of these things, it's really important to be thinking about this in advance and to have answers ready. Next slide. Okay, so academic history questions. These are fairly rare to get, I think, in the interview process, but not necessarily out of bounds. So what are your test scores? How well can you speak English? You're welcome to bring your transcripts and your test results with you to the interview if you think that can help prove these points. But all of these consular officers know that you've been admitted to a U.S. university, so you've passed our entrance requirements. They may just be testing you to see if you're able to recall this information quickly. And then, this last one, how will you manage the cultural and educational differences in the U.S.? That's actually something you can say that St. Edward's is going to assist you with, because we do have seminars to help you transition to the new educational system here in the States. And we're here to support you through that process. Next slide. So this is one of the big ones, is how you're planning to finance your education. Now, all of you have submitted bank statements or letters to St. Edward's that show that you qualify in terms of the minimum required balance to receive your I-20. But this consular officer may have additional questions for you about who your sponsor is, especially if the sponsor is not your parent, because then that sort of introduces additional questions about, well, who is sponsoring you, and what's that person's connection to you, and what do they do for a living? Do you plan on working while in the U.S.? These are all, very normal questions to get, and it's okay to be completely honest with the officer if they're asking, hey, do you want to work? And you can say, yes, I'm planning on getting a job on campus, because international students are eligible to work on campus up to 20 hours per week, and I plan on working part-time to help support myself and my personal expenses while I'm abroad. That's a great way to sort of answer that question. Or that you may be saying, I'm interested in taking advantage of OPT opportunities through my university and getting some real world experience before I return back to my home country. That's something that's great to say as well. And of course, you want to be very familiar with the scholarships that you've received. All of them will be listed on your certificate of finance form that you present at the visa interview and that you have with you. And that, as we know, breaks down the difference between your merit scholarship and if you received any need-based financial aid from St. Edward's, as well as the contribution from your sponsor. Next slide. Okay. And then finally, sometimes you'll get some post-grad questions. And I mentioned this before, are you planning to get a job in the US? Do you want to return home directly after your studies have ended? Another important one is, do you have family, relatives, or friends in the US? And you should be honest about this, but sometimes the officer will want to make a connection between your relatives in the U.S. and your intent to remain in the U.S. Post graduation. And again, you want to make it very plain and clear to the officer that maybe while you have, although you have family in the U.S., you're not intending to stay. You are going to go back to your home country. And especially if you have a special job or career in mind post graduation, maybe you can get some experience in the US working for up to a year or maybe 2 years after you graduate, but that you're really looking forward to bringing those skills back to your home country to work in a particular sector or industry. And that's another way you can explain how your degree in the US is going to help you with your career goals, because you want to connect what you're studying at St. Edward's to what you'll be doing after St. Ed's back in your home country in order to sort of convince them that you're going to go back. Next slide. So after you've been asked your interview questions, you will be given a slip that either tells you to come back to the embassy because they're going to vet um, your social media information, like Jacob mentioned, or potentially you could receive a slip that says you've been denied your visa for various reasons, or it could say that they need additional time to make it a final decision on your case. And so these are the three different options that you may receive at the conclusion of your interview. Next slide. So some of the common reasons for denial, maybe you didn't, submit the application correctly and left out one of the required items. That sometimes happens. Maybe there's one of the fees wasn't paid correctly, and in that case, it may, postpone the decision or mean that you have to reapply. Perhaps, there wasn't enough information included in the application that you submitted. Perhaps you misrepresented yourself. The most common sort of reason for denial, however, is the denial for intent to remain in the U.S. And so I think that's 214B. The second one listed here did not establish eligibility for the visa and presumption of being an intended immigrant. So that's the one that we're really actively trying to persuade the officer that's not the case. We do not intend to emigrate. We are going to go back to our home country at the conclusion of our studies. Okay, so these are the common denials. Next slide. Right. And if you are denied for your visa, you may reapply in the future. Now, when you do reapply, you have to submit a new visa application and pay the visa fee again. But you want to be able to explain to the consular officer on your next try what is different from the first attempt. So, for example, I remember last year, a consular officer had asked one of our incoming students how much their parents made monthly. And the student didn't know. And so she kind of made up a number that wasn't correct. And then she ended up not getting her visa. And she said, okay, on the next time, I'm going to really memorize all this information about my family's income and salary. And so that's, information that she was ready with on the second attempt. So again, for example, if you were denied under 214B, you want to have some kind of narrative or story to be able to convince the officer that you're, again, going to be returning to your home country, working in the field that's related to your studies, and that you do not intend to immigrate to the U.S. Jacob, do you have anything to add about this that I maybe missed?
Yeah, I don't think so. I do want to mention that it is more difficult on your second attempt to overcome a denial. So as David mentioned, you just want to make sure that you are prepared. After you've gone through it one time, you know what to expect. So possibly doing some practice interviewing at home, looking at some mock questions online. And I believe in our next slide, we've got some great resources for you as well.
Yeah, and we came up with this webinar to sort of address some of these questions because I think a lot of students don't know what to expect in the visa interview. There are other opportunities for you to learn about this process, and so I highly recommend that you check out, all the videos on YouTube about the F1 visa process. And there's a lot of videos you can find with like former consular officers talking about their experiences, the do's and don'ts of applying, things like that. If you are denied, please let us know, by the way, as soon as possible. And we're going to assist you and guide you on next steps, whether that means helping you defer your acceptance to the next semester or by contacting us to kind of see what your options are. But I think on this next slide, we have another opportunity for you with some additional resources. So again, this is all helpful information to help you prepare. But one of the resources that I would really recommend, and especially if you have some weeks before your interview, is to do a practice interview. And a lot of the Education USA offices around the world will offer this service to students who are coming to the US. So if you don't know, Education USA is a branch of the US State Department, and sort of is our official promotional wing of the US government to help promote education in the United States. And so there are advising centers in over 175 countries around the world, and likely that there are some close to you. So what you can do is you can make an appointment to meet with an advisor or a counselor at the Education USA center near you. Maybe it's at an embassy or a library. They're often located at the consulates or embassies. And you can actually have a mock interview with one of the counselors. This is a service that they offer many, many times. So I find it can be very helpful. It can take off a lot of the nerves and anxiety that you have about this process by practicing and getting feedback from someone. But again, there's a lot of resources on the web, on the internet, for you to also, practice and get more experience before you head to the embassy. I think that's it for me. Yeah, here we go. Education USA advising centers. So if you go to this website, you'll see a whole list of all the advising centers around the world, and you'll be able to see if there's opportunities to make an appointment.
Thanks so much, David. And yes, as we mentioned earlier, we'll be sending the slides that has links to all of these resources that we're discussing. So you'll be able to click those links and visit those websites and review that information. Before we get started here, before we end our presentation today, I'd just like to highlight an international student connection program that we launched last fall. We're continuing this program the incoming fall because we've had great success with it. This is an opportunity for an incoming international student to be matched with one of our current international students, either currently studying at St. Edward's or possibly a previous study abroad student that may have studied in a country, in your home country or in a country near you. So this is a great way for you to sign up for this program, get matched with one or two of our current students, so you can get information about what to expect, what were their challenges, what were their successes in their arrival to campus, what was their first semester like. They can hopefully give you some tips on, where to study, best place to get a cup of coffee on campus, things like that. And also just to have a friendship, to build that friendship before you arrive on campus. It gives you an opportunity to hopefully connect with one of our students. And usually we try to match students on similar majors, similar cultures, or just similar interests as well. So we'll be sending out more emails throughout the summer to invite our incoming students to sign up for this program. And then as we get closer to fall, we'll be matching our students, our current students with our incoming students. And then we'll be connecting you through email, and we'll give you some opportunities to connect through WhatsApp, and then a chance to meet each other once you've arrived for the fall semester. And also, I'd like to just advertise our next webinar. So we did host a pre-arrival webinar earlier this month. We'll host our second pre-arrival webinar on July 22nd. So if you weren't able to attend that first webinar, or for any reason you were not able to attend the full session, or you want to revisit this information, you are welcome to attend July 22nd. I'll be sending out more email invitations for this webinar soon, and we hope to see you there. But if not, you are certainly welcome to reach out to ISS or admissions with any questions that you have about the arrival process. And then, as I mentioned, we're happy to answer any questions that you have. I'm just going to check the chat here. I don't see any question. Oh, sorry, here's one from Rodrigo. Good morning. I had an issue with the embassy. They have scheduled my visa appointment for August 20th. I'm not sure. Not sure if you remember. However, my DS 2019 lists August 18th as my entry date. In this situation, should I request the ISS to change the date to indicate on my DS 2019? I will be studying for 2 semesters and will be attending with the J1 visa. Additionally, how flexible are you with regarding the arrival date? Yes, Rodrigo, I do remember that we did discuss this previously. Unfortunately, we're not able to change the dates on your DS 2019, but we can offer you a late arrival letter. So I believe we discussed that as long as you're able to arrive within that, first or second week of classes, that you should be fine. But if you can just keep us updated, if you were able to obtain an earlier appointment and you plan to arrive earlier, let us know. But if not, we can provide that late arrival letter for you, and we'll just need to communicate with your professors and with Residence Life on your late arrival.
And just to clarify, Jacob, we do offer this late arrival letter for students who are in specific situations related to their visa process, like a late appointment, but it's not an option for students to arrive late in other situations.
Yes, thank you, David. All right, were there any more questions? And you are welcome to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask your question live. Let's see. I think from Rodrigo, follow-up question here. Would there be any issue at the embassy if I attend the visa interview with the DS 2019 showing an entry or start date of August 18th while my appointment is scheduled for the 20th? No, that shouldn't be a problem because you did everything that in your power to try to get an appointment earlier. I believe that you said you did try to request an expedited appointment. But yeah, unfortunately, we're not able to change the dates on the DS 2019 because we have a date set for arrival for attending orientation, and then we have the class start date of August 24th. All right, we have another question here. Good morning. Do you prefer me to write my question in the chat or ask via microphone? Either way is fine. Feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask your question live.
Okay, thank you so much. Hello, yeah, I'm an extern student from Milan, and I have scheduled my visa interview directly through the website of the American consulate in Milan. So I just wanted to confirm if this is sufficient or if I'm required to inform or coordinate with anyone else, first of all.
So you said you did schedule your appointment already currently?
Yes, exactly, but it was through the American consulate in Milan, so I didn't do it through the link you showed at the beginning, so I just wanted to check if that is
Yeah,
fine.
that's okay. Yeah. There
Okay.
there are different ways to schedule your appointment. It's sometimes different consulates or embassies have their own process for doing that.
Okay, sure. And then I was also wondering, my exchange was arranged through my university in Milan, and St. Edward's was proposed to me as an option rather than something I actually chose independently, because we're basically given some options and we can basically choose and then get accepted to do this exchange. So, what would I reply if they ask me why I chose St. Edward specifically? Because in my case, I didn't really, So, if you could maybe provide me with a solution in this case.
I feel like in this case, they're not really going to ask you. Like it's a different situation, right? Because you're an
Yeah.
exchange student and you only have a few options available to you. And so that's not going to be the reason that if they deny you, right? And so it's a very different, I would say, process for exchange students who are going to be here for a short-term program, as opposed to our F1 students who will be here for long term.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
but don't worry
And
about it.
okay, that was my question. And another one, I'm sorry. Um, You mentioned, but I think you were referring to the F1 visa students that eventually students can also work on campus. But if I understood correctly, when we were provided with some information during our scheduled meetings at my university regarding the exchange, J1, like with a J1 study visa, we're not allowed to apply for jobs since our stay is strictly for academic purposes. Is this correct?
No, J1 exchange students are also eligible to work part-time on campus. You just need authorization in advance. So you would want to reach out to our office if you have a job offer to work on campus because we need to update your DS 2019 showing you have that authorization. It is limited to part-time, so 20 hours a week or less on campus at St. Edward's. And unfortunately, F1 and J1 students, they're not eligible for what's called work-study programs, which means that those positions are federally funded. So it would need to be a position that's paid directly by the university.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, and there we do have a resource on our career and professional development team's website. It's called Handshake. That's how you will use a database that you'll use to find available positions here at St. Edward's, and you can actually apply for those positions through Handshake.
Okay, thank you so much. That's great. Very interesting.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bradley, it looks like you had a question as well. Good morning. Speaking about documents to prove social ties to your home country, what documents specifically can help for that? Yeah, so again, I think any documentation showing that you or your family, own anything in your country, so home, land, business, typically, job opportunities for you. If you have a close friend group in your home country, siblings, family that you want to return to, any sort of documentation like that, showing that your intention is to come to the U.S., get your degree, or complete your exchange semester, but ultimately return to your home country after completing that program. And it could be a number of documents that might show this, and they may not ask to see the documentation, but it's a good idea for you to have that with you just in case. And also, as David mentioned earlier, to make sure that you're reviewing all that documents so you're familiar with that information in case you're questioned about it. It looks like Rodrigo had one more question here. I also have a question regarding, I'm sorry, social media, information required for the visa process. In my case, I only provided my Instagram account. I do have a TikTok account. Oh, sorry, I see David already answered this. Yeah, I agree. Since you don't have any activity on there, I don't think that's going to be an issue for you. Would anyone else like to unmute themselves and ask a question or type any questions in the chat?
It's me again. No, just for the social media, I was also pretty insecure when I had to provide my social media information when applying for the visa because they asked me also about like mails I had in the last 5 years, and I tried to provide them all, but I don't know because maybe I had some at some point, but then I don't know, I lost it or something. Do you think this is an issue? First of all, and then second of all, about my social media, I'm also not really active. I maybe have like two or three posts. Is it necessary for me to turn my social media public, or is this only in specific cases?
Yeah, I would recommend go ahead and making whatever accounts that you have readily available public, because they'll be, looking for that information online. If you shared any of those handles in your application, they will definitely be looking at those to make sure that they can review them. So it's a good idea to go ahead and make those public. And then, I'm sorry, what was your first question?
No, that when they asked me for like all my social media and my phone numbers, I tried to provide them all, but for example, I did change my phone number at some point, but to be honest, I don't remember the one I had like 3 years ago, so I wasn't able to provide it as well as might some email I had, because of course over time, I mean 5 years is a lot of time, and I might have like lost it. So I was wondering if this is an issue because this may could be found out in some way. So I wouldn't know what to respond if they, um, I don't know, may find out about it.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't believe that's going to be reason for denial. If for any reason they had questions about, your previous living history or your previous email addresses, things like that, they might just ask for additional information. So they may do the administrative processing where they ask for additional documentation from you. But yeah, I think most folks might be in that situation where they don't remember a phone number or an address from 3 or 4 years ago. So yeah, I think as long as you provide all the information that you're aware of currently, then I think that is sufficient for the visa application.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, and it looks like I have another question here from Rodrigo. With the J1 or F1, is it possible to work off campus or is employment limited to on campus? So yeah, great question. So definitely for the F1 students, off-campus employment is an option. You have to be enrolled for one full academic year, but then you become eligible for things called CPT, which is an opportunity to have an internship off campus before graduation, and then OPT, which is an opportunity to work in the U.S. for up to a year after graduation to gain experience in that field. Now, for our exchange students, typically our exchange students are here for 1 semester. In that situation, you're usually only eligible for the on-campus employment. But we do have students that attend for 2 semesters. If you're in that situation, then you may be eligible for what's called academic training if you meet that enrollment requirement. So yes, that might be an option for a J1 who's attending for 2 semesters. So just be sure to reach out to ISS once you arrive, and we can talk about that process as well. Looks like Spencer has a question. Looks like David's already answered that. On the question of why did you choose this course? Should I talk about the school resources or make it more personal? And David said, it'd be honest as possible. In your case, you can speak about your interest in computer science and the fact that Austin is a technology hub. And Spencer, what answer would you suggest is best?
I mean, honestly, This is something that you would have to answer, Spencer, of why you chose computer science as your major, what you're interested in doing with that major, what industries you want to work in after you graduate, the types of skills you want to, learn while you're at the university. Um, you know, I would go that way. And if you want to work off campus as well, it's okay to mention that, especially because, one of the reasons you likely chose St. Edward's is because it's in Austin, which is such a place that's has, over 10,000 technology companies. And a lot of our computer science students are getting internships locally at those companies. So that's a very persuasive answer, I think. And the consular officers know enough about Austin that they know it's a tech hub.
All right, and yeah, Rodrigo just had a follow-up here that he is attending for 2 semesters. So yeah, Rodrigo, just come talk to us once you arrive and we can discuss academic training. Okay, any more questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. So looks like we still have a few minutes left, but we'll go ahead and end the session today. If you do think of any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to David or myself, or just general ISS email address. And then I will be sending out an email probably Friday this week with a link to this recording. And also I'll include the slides. So feel free to revisit this information if additional questions come up after you review this. Again, reach out to us and we'll be happy to help. But we look forward to having you on the Hilltop very soon. And one more plug for the next pre-arrival webinar, which will be July 22nd, and you'll be receiving email invitations to that soon as well. Well, thank you again for attending.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.